Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits and welcome to the recap of the December 2020, January 2021 ChemKnits Dialogue. I decided to pick this beautiful sparkler image with the bright yellow and orange fiery flare against a dark background with some blue and pinkish purple bokeh in there from the photograph, and I thought it would be really fun to evoke the yarn that I did in part of the 2020 ChemKnits Hanukkah special, where I was evoking a flame. And in this I used, ooh, I have a black light now, but I used some fluorescent dyes to create this flame-like effect, and then a combination of black and blued steel to give the darkness. So it's like a little bit of pop of light in a darkness. Now with this inspiration photo, I'm not going to be doing the exact same colors, but I will be doing a similar technique where I'll be speckling, steam setting, and then dyeing the darkness, probably in a steam pan, some kind of medium immersion style later on. Now this live stream or this dialogue is different for a few reasons. One, it was a combination of 2 months because December got really busy with Hanukkah and joining in the live chats every night. It was so fun, but it didn't really leave a lot of time for me to stream. And so then I decided to take a little bit of a vacation. And then January, a lot of things happened in my personal life that were really challenging, and I still wanted to create this yarn that I envisioned back in December. So as we started hitting the end of January, I decided that I would film the first step, the speckling step, where I would be wearing a respirator mask on camera, but not live. And so I'm hoping to share some clips of that in the live stream that I plan to do for the second step, which will be bringing in the darkness around the bright light. So that is my plan for this month. I hope in February to be back to, around the 15th, a more regularly scheduled release of photo and planned live stream, but I am trying to practice some self-care and leave things fairly last minute this month to give myself time and to not overcommit myself to things that I can't reasonably accomplish without pushing too hard. So let's go start dyeing this yarn. I'm really excited, and while grieving and things like that, creating bright colors and playing with color is actually really therapeutic for me. So let's go get set up. We are going to dye some Knit Picks Stroll Fingering Weight yarn. I've pre-soaked it for a couple of hours in some plain tap water, and now I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a bit tablespoons of white vinegar, because that's how much I had sitting in this cup. I do plan to save this pre-soak water. I don't know if I'll do more than 6 skeins. I know I was able to fit 900 grams of yarn in my pan last time, but we'll do a test and maybe I'll pre-soak some more along the way. So I'll either reuse this pre-soak as a pre-soak, or we will use it for the second step and reuse this water and vinegar. Color-wise, I know that for both the flame and then the little bit of bokeh from probably string lights or something in the background, I want to use Purple Pop, Fluorescent Safety Orange, and then either True Turquoise, or I have a tiny bit of, this is an old container of Frozen, the first one I ever emptied. I might use what's residual left in here and mix citric acid directly into this container. So I don't know if that'll work, but I might use that. But if not, then I'll use True Turquoise or maybe a combination of the two. For the darkness, I feel like I want some Teal Green in there as like a hint. And I'm debating between using dark navy, blued steel, and black. I mean, I'm definitely going to have some black. I definitely want some teal. And I think I'm going to go with navy this time. Blued steel is amazing. Last time for the darkness, I did a ratio of 2 blued steel to 1 true black. And so I will be mixing up some stocks of these 3 dyes to prepare for the live stream at some point. But first, we're going to deal with the speckles. And since we're using dry dye powder, I will be wearing safety glasses, a respirator mask, and gloves while we're dealing with the powders. Okay, I am suited up, adding my gloves. Into each of these containers, I have added 1 tablespoon of citric acid powder. And we're going to use that to dilute the acid dyes so that way we can get more spread out speckles. Okay. Let's see what is present in the frozen container. Okay, that's nothing basically, but I will still hang on to it because we'll use that at some point. Actually, I was debating like just using it today, but we'll use that at some point. So let's take some, well, let's start with the fluorescent safety orange. I know that this is the color we're probably going to want the most of, and I'm going to take just like a healthy, is that too much? I'm going to take a healthy spoon tip full of this, add it to the citric acid powder, and then we're going to stir it up. Using these takeout containers for the dye is a little trickier to stir up than, say, using the little cups that I often use over and over again. And I think that this might be more concentrated than when I did in Hanukkah. Oh goodness. All right, and so here with our true turquoise, I don't want as much. I want these speckles to be less impactful, so I've taken just a little bit on the tip of this spoon, and I'm going to mix this up. But it is so dry that the powder is just sticking to the spoon and stuff, and so, okay. And the purple pop, the nice thing with this is I can always add more dye powder once we see how this goes on yarn, but I think I'm going to do a similar thing. Take not very much at all and add it in right here. Stir that up. All right, now let me go get the yarn. I just took the spoons out and put them all in a jar just to wet it, and it turned into a very beautiful teal color. So that is something that's worth keeping in mind. All right, now I don't need to speckle and dye the whole yarn. I just need to focus on one area. So my plan, and I'm attempting to dry off my fingers to make this easier, is to take the fluorescent safety orange, and I do want to dye a slightly bigger area than I think I want. I don't mind if some of this color moves into the darkness, but probably about 12 inches or so long. And my fingers are coated. I don't have a yarn mop, but I am coming in and just going to touch it for the orange. I won't be doing that, I don't think, for the purple pop and turquoise. I could have a yarn mop on hand. There is a little bit of dye on my fingers. I'm not worried about that. I'm taking a little pinch of our blue, which I do not see anywhere yet. So maybe it's so dilute that I have to go a little heavier in order to see it. I'm going to go into the purple and do A little bit. Okay, I see a little bit maybe. Okay, it's really small. And I'm gonna wipe my finger a little further down because I think I don't care if these colors are here, and maybe that's good for a little bit into the darkness to have a little bit of that color. I'm actually not mad at that. Okay, I do see the colors coming in. It's super, super hint. We'll see how things look once, add a little bit more blue. But we'll see how things look overall once we steam set this. So now I'm going to flip it over. Flip it over, and this time, turn my fingers off. This time I'm going to start with the blue. I mean, I see a few blue hints in there. A little bit of the purple. I like this idea because this edge is going to be somewhat covered up by those other colors, these edge parts. I'll zoom you in a moment, and then coming in with the Fluorescent Safety Orange. My hands were not dry enough. You can see how things clumped, but I'm bringing the little bit of spread that I want into there. I really will need to get some kind of mop. I'm gonna go wash my hands. So here in the yarn, I've got heavy Fluorescent Safety Orange speckles, some pops of that purple and blue, very, very subtle. It's still very much more about the orange. And then along the side, we've got some blue and teal going over there. So if I look closely, I do see the purple in there. It's just mostly about that orange with a little bit of purple. I'm not going to worry about that. I actually am pretty happy with that. I thought I might want more purple, but I don't want to overwhelm the orange and have it turn too green. So I am going to leave that there. Our powders I have covered. I don't often do this, but since I'm going to be doing things in stages, I wanted to be able to cover it. And now I am going to carefully take this yarn and over to a steamer basket. But first, let's just press it onto the counter a little bit, especially if I notice any areas where I wish had maybe a tiny bit more pigment. Oh, I'm seeing more of the purple now. Okay, so I'm going to now take this into a steamer basket, and you notice I'm laying it on top of itself. It will have color transfer, but we're going to steam set that yarn for at least 20 minutes. And in the meantime, I grabbed one of our other skeins to use as a mop, and I'll use this to wipe my hands going forward, but just to clean up what was left. And there wasn't a lot left, but there was still something left. So I am going to leave this here for when we're ready to come back. Here is the yarn out of the steamer basket, and I both love it and feel like I muddied it a little bit. I think that what I should do is focus on the center of this area, most of the orange, then towards the, rather than doing like the blue and pink all the way through, have that a little bit more clustered in areas around either edge. around where I want that edge to be. And there can still be orange over there, but I think that I mostly want to focus on orange in the center area. But I do like it, and it is still actually really, really bright. So that is good as well. Just bringing you in a little bit closer. Now I started to work on 2 skeins at a time, starting with mostly orange, especially focused in that center of the area, and then bringing in the blue and purple a little bit more towards the outside. Again, I'm not going to be upset if there's color transfer. It's bright, it's fun. The blue does make it feel a little bit less flame, so that one especially I want more towards the outside. Maybe we can have more pinks towards the center, but I'm going to do this on 4 skeins and then steam them in my steamer basket for 20 minutes. I did go ahead and steam set the yarn for 20 minutes. After I removed that, I set it aside to cool a little bit before filming it and went ahead and steamed the yarn mop. I figure we'll use it again, but may as well set the color that's on there so that way we can use it to mop up more from our counter. It's still cooling off. I just removed it from the steamer basket, but I think I like having the more defined separation of those colors while still providing speckles. So in the flame, we still have that orange and pink and yellow spread with a little bit of pop of blue, and I'm going a little heavier than I did in our first test. But then the purple and that blue are more defined within all of the light, and then the white we can cover with darkness. So I think that like this area here, I'll try to leave a bit visible because I like having that in there. And so in contrast, the original one we did, which is still really pretty, I feel the sparks more here. And it looks like there's a lot of white just because the skeins aren't arranged with the tips at one end yet. So once this cools, well, actually probably when we're ready to do the live stream, I'll rearrange the skeins and prepare them for adding the darkness on, which I still think will do a combination of like teal, navy, and black. The question will be, I definitely want at least 2 colors that we're gonna layer on, and they'll likely mix a lot on the yarn, but we might have some hue shifts in there. But I still need to, yeah, I'll mix them separately and we can combine them as needed during the stream. Here is the status of the yarn mop so far. It's actually a lot of pale yellow in the background, which I think isn't really showing up on camera super well. There's not a ton of white, but there's definitely space to wipe our hands moving forward, and the color is just random, bright, and fun. And so the nice thing about setting the color in this intermediate step is that now when I go and wipe on, colors will layer, but it won't keep blending and mixing, if that makes a little bit of sense. We still had a lot of dye left in the cups, and so I did pre-soak 4 more skeins of Knit Picks Stroll fingering weight yarn, which again is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And I removed those and 2 at a time did a very similar technique. The sizing, I think this time I wanted to go for something a little bit more compressed, but I really, really like the combination of these 3 colors together and how that goes with our inspiration photo. There is not very much of our bright dye left, and so I'm going to have fun with a skein of Knit Picks Swish DK, which is 100% superwash merino, that I'm going to go wet in the bucket, and then we will use up what's left here. Alright, I don't know entirely what my plan is here, but we're going to add some color olish over, I think. There really isn't very much orange. Actually, let's try this. Let's combine all of this color that's left and see what we get. Now I will need to, it's probably mostly orange because that was actually added a lot more concentrated in. I will need to probably steam this on its own because, and then we'll use them off one more time after, just because I don't want to introduce any spread. Funny, what I wiped onto the mop just now is absolutely more brown than what we've been having lately. And where are my speckles? Oh no, my hands are damp. And now you can see that it is clumped more. I did squeeze out almost all of the water from the skein, and I really only dunked it in that bucket for not very much time. So, and it is getting rubbed and touched a little bit, but I think it'll just be a very subtle, so fun to see how like brown this all is. And then I will rinse, oh dear, and we will save the last bit of dye, but I thought it'd be fun to, there's actually a lot less than I thought, but I thought it would be fun to use up what was left in some kind of way. So I'm going to go ahead and steam set this. I'll steam set everything, but I'll steam set this for 20 minutes and then we'll be back. Here is all the yarn after the live stream. And you can kind of, even though it's still wet, you can get a sense of some of the hues, the navy and black and teal dark hues in our darkness. And I just wanted to add a couple examples of removing these zip ties that we did just as markers. So I knew how far I wanted to add that color. And you can see that it's not a resist as much as it was just a placeholder for me to hold that color. And we do have a little bit of a teal halo going down. Let's do this one as well. Removing these. And so yes, there might be a little bit of white in some areas, but I think that it's gonna be so pretty. I'll do this one too. Why not? Why not? But now I am going to go ahead and go wash things off camera, and we'll take a look at the yarn as soon as it's dry. Here is the yarn under a black light from the ChemKnits Hanukkah in 2020. And it's a little hard to see because the black light, it's so bright that it blows everything out, but you can see those fluorescent speckles, and it is just so cool. Very much like candlelight almost. Here's one other view. I don't know if the brightness and fun of the colors is really coming through because the white balance is probably off, but it is so like yellow, bright yellow with bits of pink and orange, and it's just really fun. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. Here are the 2 yarn mops that we did today. And when I popped on the light, it was like a party. The bright speckles on the white from that last skein we did where we just mixed all the dye together is so cool. The one where I was wiping my fingers is also really cool, but it almost, like this speckled one just looks like starlight. There, you can really see. That is so fun. So much fun. Finally, here is our speckled awesome sparkler. Just check out the brightness. And I feel like some of it comes through when I don't have the light directly on it, and you can really see the fluorescent specks. Oh, that is so fun. Ooh, this area where there's a little bit of teal on it and it dampens it a little bit. That is so cool. Let me open it. Here we go. So here is our whole area. The blue definitely doesn't come through, but that is also because the blue is not fluorescent. And what is fluorescent is that orange, which gives us that bright, bright, bright yellow. And then the purple pop gives us a little bit of pink, but it is less bright. Maybe because the blue is on top of it, or maybe just because yellow is a lot brighter. But I would say that the color under the blue light is absolutely looking very, very yellow, whereas it does look a lot more orange in person. So I don't know if that is because the yellow is the fluorescent molecule in here or what. But anyway, this is the whole skein under a black light. Here are the 4 skeins that we just looked at under the black light. And some of them you can see a little bit of the resemblance, but some of them just feel extremely different. And I'm mostly talking about this yarn mop that had the mixture of all the colors of speckles that were left over and put on. I would say in person, you can see a little bit of a neon pink. And if you go really, really close, you can see the blue and yellow, but the colors feel more muted because of the way they've blended together. But man, under a black light, does this come alive. The other mop that we use to wipe our hands also is layered. It's busy, it's got a lot of color. There's some places where the colors are a bit more muted because of the way they combined, but it is still fun and happy. As for the colorway we created versus our I guess not the inspiration photo, but also compared to the inspiration colorway for our technique, I'd say that the technique worked super, super well. And it's just with different colors. And I am really, really happy. I love how this darkness is a bit more teal. It's a little bit more green than the smokier darkness that we had from Hanukkah. This colorway is without question busier, just because we've got more colors in our bright area and more variation of tone and color in the darkness. But I still think that it's really fun. I'm gonna go lay all of them out now. This colorway is so much fun. This skein right here is the one that we looked at under the black light. And so that was one of the larger orange sections. But then we have 4 skeins with shorter sections, and I feel like they would all look very similar. Now, in terms of our darkness, there is a lot of tonal variation in there. You can see, you don't really feel the black, but that does deepen the teal in areas, and the navy, the teal definitely comes through. And I think that this fits that variation that we have in the darkness from our inspiration photo, and I am so excited for it. So what do you think? Does this feel like sparklers and some Christmas lights? As for our sparks, here's that first colorway that we did. That does feel a little more yellow overall, and I think I like it a bit more dry than I did when it was wet. When it was wet, it felt like the colors were a lot more blended together, and I do feel like it does feel neon and bright still in person. So this is fun, but I think I really just enjoy the more color blocking a lot more. Now it's time for my favorite part of the ChemKnits dye-along recaps, and it's time for me to show off some of the yarn that you dyed inspired by this same photo. I love seeing how similar and different the colorways are that we all come up with, and thank you so much for sharing them with me. If you'd like to be featured in a future recap, share the yarn that you dyed with the hashtag ChemKnits dye-along on Instagram, or reply to the inspiration photo that is usually pinned on the ChemKnits Facebook page. Reply with a photo comment, and I will pick a bunch of the photos to add to the recap. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I really hope that you enjoyed this live stream. I get so excited when I can create a colorway that fits the vision I had in my head. That doesn't happen as often as you might think. There are definitely a lot of times when I might have a vision and then I don't quite nail it. So I am beyond thrilled with how these turned out, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel, and make sure you turn on notifications so that way you don't miss any of my live streams. In general, I try to plan this in advance, but sometimes I like to, oh gosh, and hopefully I can do this more again going forward, just decide to do a random live stream or unboxing that isn't scheduled in advance. And with your notifications on, there's, well, I suppose only still a chance that YouTube will let you know, because they don't always notify everyone, even if they have all notifications on, but there's a shot, so you should give that a chance. If you love the yarn I dye and want to bring some home, I do have an Etsy shop, ChemKnits Creations, and you can find a link down in the video description. What themes would be really fun to look at for future dialogues? In general, I tend to go for mostly things that you find in nature, but occasionally I like to choose other types of images as well. And so, yeah, give me suggestions of kinds of things that I should search for. Thank you so much for watching.